I never thought I would be that guy. You know, the one who gets blindsided in his own marriage, completely unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. But that is exactly what happened to me. Looking back now, it all seemed too perfect. I had everything a man could want: a beautiful wife, a solid job, and a life that seemed pretty much set. But if life has taught me anything, it is that things are rarely as perfect as they seem. My wife, Jennifer, and I met back in college. She was the kind of girl that could make every head turn without even trying. Smart, gorgeous, confident. I was no slouch myself, but I knew I had gotten lucky. From the moment we met, sparks flew. We shared classes, hung out between lectures, and soon enough, the inevitable happened. A casual dinner led to a movie, which then led to a night that changed everything. I woke up in her bed the next morning, her body nestled into mine, and in that moment, I thought I had found it: real love. Things moved fast from there. Before the semester was over, we were an official couple. By graduation, we were engaged. It felt like the natural progression. No one was surprised when I popped the question. I was head over heels, and she seemed like she was too. We got married, and life took off in all the ways I had dreamed. I landed a good job in construction management, and she started at a top law firm. Our careers kept us busy, but we made time for each other. Date nights, vacations, weekend getaways. The passion, the connection, it was all there. Or so I thought. Years went by, and life settled into a rhythm. We lived in a nice apartment, took trips when we could, and just lived. 7 years of marriage, and we were still going strong. Or at least, that is what I believed. Then, just like that, everything changed. It was a typical Thursday evening. I was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. Jennifer was working late, as usual. She had been coming home later and later these days, but I chalked it up to her demanding job. I mean, who was I to question that? She was ambitious, always had been, and I respected her for it. She came home, looking tired but otherwise normal. She dropped her purse on the counter, kicked off her heels, and then, without even glancing my way, she casually said the words that would shatter my world. "I have a date tomorrow night." At first, I froze. I thought I had heard her wrong. Surely, she did not just say what I thought she said. "Excuse me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. But there was no misunderstanding. Jennifer looked me dead in the eyes and repeated, "I have a date. His name is Ryan." Ryan? What the hell? My brain scrambled to make sense of what was happening. I felt a flood of emotions: confusion, anger, fear, churning inside me, but I was too stunned to react right away. "Who the hell is Ryan?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling with a mixture of disbelief and fury. "Oh, just a guy I met at work," she said casually, as if this was a conversation about what movie we should watch, not the fact that she was about to go out with another man. "He's charming, really sweet. Honestly, you should not take this so seriously. It's just one date." Just one date? Like that made it okay? Like everything we had built, 7 years of marriage, all the history, all the love, meant nothing? My mind raced. This could not be happening. Was she cheating on me? How long had this been going on? All the late nights at the office, the sudden shift in her behavior. Had I missed the signs? How could I have been so blind? I stood there in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the counter like it was the only thing keeping me grounded. My thoughts spun in a dizzying spiral, and yet, there she was, Jennifer, calmly talking about her date, as if she had just told me she was going out to buy groceries. "Ryan?" I repeated, trying to keep my voice steady, even though my heart felt like it was about to explode. "You're seriously telling me you're going on a date with another guy?" Jennifer gave a little shrug, totally unfazed. "It's no big deal, Nick. It's just one night. I mean, you've been talking about settling down, buying a house, starting a family." I thought, well, maybe before we take that step, I should see what it's like with someone else. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. Was she really doing this? Before we settled down? I thought we were settled. We were married. What did she think we had been doing for the last 7 years? Playing house? The room felt smaller, tighter. My pulse raced as I stared at her, searching for any sign of the woman I fell in love with. The one I had believed was devoted to me. But all I saw was someone I did not recognize, a stranger in my own home. You thought what? I asked, my voice rising despite my effort to stay calm. Jennifer, we've been married for 7 years. How is this just now something you're thinking about? She rolled her eyes, as if I was the one being unreasonable. Nick, stop being so dramatic. It's just a little fun. I'm not planning to run off with the guy. I just want to see what it's like. My anger flared. Are you kidding me? Do you hear yourself? You think this is fun? You think going on dates with other men is a casual thing now? You're married, Jennifer. To me. She sighed, as though I was being some overbearing fool. Look, it's not like our marriage is in trouble. I just want a little excitement, something different. It's no reflection on you. I still love you, Nick. My blood boiled. Her words were like gasoline on a fire. Love me? You love me? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. If you loved me, you wouldn't be going on dates with other guys behind my back. She finally met my eyes, her expression softening like she was speaking to a child who just didn't understand. Oh, Nick, don't be so insecure. You're handsome, and we have a good thing going. This is just, I don't know, something I need to do. It's not like I'm asking for a divorce. I felt something break inside me. Her calm indifference was more painful than if she had just screamed at me or told me it was over. It was the way she said it, like I was some sort of inconvenience, an obstacle she could brush aside while she pursued her little fling. Well, I am absolutely not okay with this, I said, my voice trembling with rage. This isn't just a little game, Jennifer. This will destroy everything we've built. She shrugged again, like my words meant nothing. You're overreacting. It's not a big deal. Why don't you try going out with someone too? Maybe you'll see it's not the end of the world. I laughed, but there was no humor in it, just disbelief. You think I want to go on dates with other people? That's not what marriage is, Jennifer. I want us to be enough. Her lips curled into a smug smile, as if she was amused by my outrage. Sure, Nick. Let me know how your date hunt goes. I bet you couldn't even find someone by Friday. Her words hung in the air, dripping with condescension. It was like she was challenging me, daring me to try and prove her wrong. My heart raced, but there was no way I was going to let her have the last word. I'll tell you what, I said, standing taller, my voice hardening. If you're so confident, then fine. I'll go out Friday too. We'll see how you like it. For the first time, I saw a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She quickly masked it with laughter. You? On a date? You couldn't find one if you tried, Nick. My fists clenched at my sides, but I didn't let her see how deeply her words cut. Instead, I turned on my heel and walked out of the kitchen before I said something I would regret. I needed space, and I needed it now. I grabbed my coat and left the house, not even sure where I was going, just knowing I had to get out before I exploded. As I drove through the quiet streets of our neighborhood, my mind was racing. How had it come to this? How had the woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew better than anyone, turned into someone so cold, so indifferent? I needed to talk to someone. The only person who came to mind was my best friend, Jeff. He had been my rock for years. If anyone could help me make sense of this mess, it was him. I drove to Jeff's house, my mind still reeling from everything that had just happened. Jeff and I had been friends since high school. He had always been the level-headed one, the guy who could help you see straight when everything around you was falling apart. As I pulled into his driveway, I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. Jeff opened the door before I even had a chance to knock. One look at my face, and he knew something was up. Man, what happened? You look like you've been hit by a truck, he said, motioning me inside. I stepped into his living room, still trying to wrap my head around it all. You're not gonna believe this, Jeff, I said, running a hand through my hair. Jennifer just told me she's going on a date tomorrow night with some guy from her office. Like it's no big deal. Jeff's eyes widened, disbelief written all over his face. Wait, what? A date? Dude, you're married. What the hell is she thinking? Exactly. I almost shouted, finally feeling like someone understood the gravity of the situation. She said it's just for fun. No big deal, she said. And then she had the nerve to tell me to try dating someone too, like this is some sort of experiment. Jeff shook his head, leaning back on the couch. That's messed up, man. I don't even know what to say. What the hell is wrong with her? I don't know, I said, feeling the weight of it all crashing down on me. Everything seemed fine until now. We never really fought. We've had a good life. But out of nowhere, she just drops this bomb on me. Like she wants something more, some thrill or whatever. Jeff leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees, the seriousness in his face matching my mood. Look, Nick, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. This is bad. I mean, how long has she been seeing this guy? Is it just the one date, or has there been more going on behind your back? I clenched my fists, the thought sending a wave of nausea through me. She says it's just one date, but honestly, I don't know. She's been working late a lot, and I feel like I've been missing something this whole time. Jeff was silent for a moment, his face grim. You gotta talk to her, man. You need to get to the bottom of this. If she's serious about going through with it, you can't just sit back and let it happen. You need answers. I tried, I said, shaking my head. But she's so damn calm about it. Like I'm the one being ridiculous. She doesn't even seem to care that this is tearing me apart. Jeff nodded slowly. You know what? Screw that. You deserve better than this. She can't just throw your marriage out the window for some office fling. If she really doesn't give a damn, then maybe you need to start thinking about what's best for you. His words hit hard, but they made sense. I had spent the last 7 years putting Jennifer first, making sure she had everything she needed, but maybe Jeff was right. Maybe it was time to stop worrying about her feelings and start thinking about mine. I told her I'd go on a date too, I admitted, rubbing my temples. I don't know why I said it, but I just couldn't let her make me feel like I'm not worth anything. She laughed at me, man. Like I couldn't even find someone to go out with. Jeff raised an eyebrow. You? Come on. You could definitely find someone. You just need to get out there. I snorted. Yeah, sure. It's been years since I've even thought about anyone but her. What am I supposed to do? Jump on some dating app and hope for the best? Jeff chuckled, but his face quickly grew serious again. Look, Nick, you need to take control of this situation. Either you make her see how much she's screwing things up, or you start thinking about how to protect yourself. This might not be salvageable. Those words hung in the air between us, heavier than anything else that had been said. The possibility that this could be the end of my marriage was something I had been avoiding thinking about, but Jeff had just said it out loud, and now I had to face it. You really think she's checked out that far? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Jeff sighed. I don't know, man, but from what you're telling me, it doesn't sound good. If she's willing to risk your whole marriage for a fling, she might not care as much as you think. I sat back, staring at the ceiling. The idea that Jennifer, the woman I had loved for so long, could be this indifferent to what we had, it was unbearable. But the truth was creeping in, whether I wanted to admit it or not. I can't believe this is happening, I muttered. Jeff stood up, walking over to the fridge. You want a beer? I nodded, feeling numb as he handed me the cold bottle. Thanks, I said, taking a long drink, hoping it would dull the pain even just a little. Jeff sat down again, his tone softer now. Look, Nick, no matter what happens, you've got to be ready. If she's checked out, you can't let her destroy you in the process. Be smart about this. I stared at the beer bottle, trying to process everything. I know, but damn, I thought we were solid, you know? I never saw this coming. Jeff sighed, shaking his head. None of us ever do, man. None of us ever do. The drive home from Jeff's place felt like I was on autopilot. My mind kept replaying Jennifer's words over and over again, her casual tone, the smugness in her voice. It felt surreal, like I was stuck in some nightmare I could not wake up from. The house was dark when I pulled into the driveway. She was probably already in bed, getting her beauty sleep before her big date tomorrow. The thought made my stomach churn with anger. I sat in the car for a few minutes, staring at the front door, wondering how the hell I was going to deal with this. Was I really going to go through with this whole date idea? Could I even bring myself to do it? I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't just let her walk all over me. I needed to make her realize what she was throwing away. But how? As I stepped into the house, the familiar warmth of home hit me, but it felt different. Everything felt tainted now. as if the life we had built was crumbling around me, brick by brick. I made my way to the kitchen, grabbing a glass of water, trying to steady myself. Tomorrow, she would be out with some guy, laughing, flirting, and maybe even doing more. I felt sick. I headed upstairs, fully intending to sleep on the couch, but as I passed our bedroom, I stopped. The door was slightly ajar, and the soft glow of her bedside lamp spilled into the hallway. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed the door open. Jennifer was sitting up in bed, scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered by everything that had happened earlier. She glanced up at me when I walked in, and I could see the faintest trace of a smirk on her lips. "You're back," she said, her tone neutral, as if she didn't have a care in the world. "Did you go out to cool off?" I stood there for a moment, looking at her. This woman I thought I knew. How had we gotten here? I could barely recognize her now, the person I thought was my partner, my love. The realization that she might never have truly cared hit me like a sledgehammer. "You don't get it, do you?" I said, my voice tight with frustration. She put her phone down, crossing her arms as she leaned back against the pillows. "What is there to get, Nick? You're blowing this way out of proportion." I clenched my jaw, trying to keep my voice calm, but it was like trying to hold back a tidal wave. "This isn't something you just try for fun, Jennifer. You're going out with another man. How is that not a big deal to you?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't budge. "I already told you, it's just a date. It's not like I'm cheating on you. We've been together forever, and I've never been with anyone else but you. Maybe I want to see what else is out there before we settle down completely. Maybe I want a little excitement." I took a deep breath, struggling to keep from yelling. "Jennifer, we're settled down. We're married. That's what this is. You're not dating anymore. You're not supposed to be looking for excitement somewhere else." She let out an exasperated sigh, her eyes rolling again. "Why do you have to make this about you? This isn't even about us, Nick. It's about me. I just want to have a little fun before we dive into the whole family thing." My fists clenched at my sides, the anger boiling over. "You're so selfish, Jennifer. Do you even hear yourself? You think you can just waltz into someone else's life, play around, and come back to me like nothing's happened?" Her eyes flared with irritation, and she sat up straighter. "Selfish? You're the one who can't handle me doing something for myself for once. You've had me all to yourself for years. What's one night?" "One night?" I scoffed, my voice trembling with anger. "It's not the night that's the problem. It's the fact that you're willing to throw away everything we have for some meaningless fling." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "No, you listen to me, Jennifer. You think this is all fun and games, but it's not. If you go through with this, it'll change everything. You're not just going on a date. You're walking away from our marriage, whether you realize it or not." For the first time, I saw her hesitate. There was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes, but it was gone just as quickly as it appeared. She shook her head, brushing off my words like they were nothing. "You're being so dramatic, Nick. I told you, it's not that serious." "Not serious?" I said, my voice rising. "This is our marriage we're talking about. I don't know what kind of fantasy you've built up in your head, but in the real world, this is betrayal." Jennifer threw her hands up in frustration. "You're impossible. It's one damn date, Nick. I'm not running off to Vegas to marry the guy. Can't you just let me have this?" That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. The disrespect, the indifference, it was eating me alive. "No, Jennifer, I can't let you have this. If you go on that date tomorrow, you're choosing him over me. And if that's your choice, then we're done." I could see the shock flash across her face. She wasn't expecting that. For a moment, there was silence, the tension between us so thick it was almost suffocating. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but nothing came out. She just stared at me, her eyes wide, and for the first time, I saw something that resembled fear. I turned and walked out of the room, slamming the door behind me. My heart was pounding, and I could barely breathe. This was it, the moment where everything shifted. Tomorrow, I would find out if I still had a marriage, or if Jennifer had already thrown it all away. That night, I barely slept. My mind was spinning, replaying the conversation with Jennifer over and over again. Part of me wondered if I had gone too far, throwing down an ultimatum like that. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there was no other option. This wasn't just some minor disagreement. She was willing to cross a line that should never be crossed in a marriage, and I couldn't stand by and watch it happen. The next morning, the house felt eerily quiet. Jennifer was already gone when I woke up, probably at work or, God knows, planning her big date tonight. The thought made my stomach turn. I couldn't shake the image of her with another man, laughing, touching, sharing things that were supposed to be ours. I went through the motions of getting ready for work, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. I didn't know how I was going to make it through the day knowing what was waiting for me at the end of it. As I walked out the door, I glanced at my phone. No messages. No apologies. No nothing from Jennifer. At work, I could barely focus. I spent most of the day staring at my computer screen, pretending to work while my mind kept wandering back to her. Was she really going to go through with it? Did she even care that she was tearing us apart? The hours dragged by, each one more agonizing than the last. Around lunchtime, my phone buzzed. For a brief second, I thought maybe it was Jennifer. Maybe she had come to her senses. But when I checked, it was just Jeff, asking how I was holding up. Not great, I typed back. She's still planning to go out tonight. I don't know what to do. A few seconds later, his response came through. That's rough, man. Look, you don't have to sit at home and take this. Why don't you get out? Do something for yourself. Don't let her control how you feel. I stared at the screen, feeling a mix of anger and helplessness. Jeff was right. I couldn't just sit at home and let this eat me alive. If Jennifer was going to act like this, then maybe it was time I started thinking about my own happiness. By the time I got home, the house was still empty. Jennifer wasn't there, which meant she was probably already getting ready for her date. The thought made me want to punch a wall. I tossed my jacket onto the couch and stood there for a moment, trying to decide what to do. Then, almost without thinking, I grabbed my phone and pulled up an old contact I hadn't spoken to in months. Megan, a coworker of mine. She had always been kind to me, always made it clear that she was interested. I had never acted on it, obviously, because I was married. But now everything felt different. I hesitated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the send button. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to take Jeff's advice and put myself out there? Part of me felt guilty, like I was sinking to Jennifer's level. But another part of me felt like this was the only way to take control of the situation. Before I could overthink it, I hit send. The message was simple. Hey, Megan, you free tonight? A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. Her response was immediate, almost like she had been waiting for it. I'm free. What did you have in mind? I stared at the message for a moment, my heart racing. Was I really going to do this? I thought about Jennifer, how she had laughed in my face, how she had treated me like I didn't matter. This wasn't about getting even. It was about reminding myself that I deserved more than this. I typed back quickly. How about dinner? 7 o'clock? Sounds perfect. She replied with a winking emoji. That was it. I was doing this. Tonight, I was going on a date. Not because I wanted to hurt Jennifer, but because I needed to reclaim something for myself. The hours ticked by painfully slow until finally, it was time. I got dressed, pulling on a shirt Jennifer had once complimented. The one she said made me look sharp. I stared at myself in the mirror, trying to recognize the man I used to be before all of this. The one who believed in love, in commitment, in the future we were supposed to have together. As I got ready to leave, I couldn't help but wonder where Jennifer was. Was she out with Ryan now? Were they laughing over drinks? Maybe planning something more after dinner? The anger rose in my chest again, but I pushed it down. Tonight wasn't about her. I met Megan at a small, quiet restaurant on the edge of town. As soon as I walked in, she smiled at me, her eyes lighting up in a way that felt different from how Jennifer looked at me lately. Megan wasn't drop-dead gorgeous, but there was something about her. Maybe it was the way she actually seemed to care about me, the way she listened, the way she made me feel like I mattered. Hey, Nick, she said as I sat down. I was surprised to hear from you, but I'm glad you reached out. I smiled, though it felt forced. Yeah, I just needed to get out of the house. Dinner was nice, simple, easy conversation. Megan asked how things were going at work, told me about her weekend plans, and before long, I found myself laughing. For the first time in days, I felt a little bit of the weight lift off my shoulders. But in the back of my mind, Jennifer was still there, like a shadow I couldn't shake. As dinner wound down, Megan leaned in a little closer. "So, you want to do this again sometime? I had a good time tonight." I hesitated, feeling the conflict bubble up inside me. This was all supposed to be about reclaiming my confidence, showing Jennifer that I wasn't going to sit at home and wait for her. But now, sitting across from Megan, I wasn't sure if this was the right move. "I'm not sure," I admitted, my voice quiet. "It's complicated." Megan nodded, her smile softening. "I get it. Look, no pressure. Just let me know." We finished dinner, and I walked her to her car. There was no awkward tension, no pressure for anything more. She gave me a quick hug, then drove off into the night, leaving me standing there alone. As I headed home, I felt a strange mix of emotions: relief, confusion, guilt. I had done it. I had gone out, just like Jennifer had said I should. But instead of feeling triumphant, I just felt empty. When I got back to the house, Jennifer's car was in the driveway. My heart raced as I walked up to the door, wondering what I would find inside. Was she home early? Did something happen on her date? Or had she simply come home, unfazed by the night, while I wrestled with my own guilt and doubt? I opened the door quietly and stepped inside, bracing myself for whatever was waiting on the other side. The house was quiet when I walked in, almost too quiet. Jennifer's car was in the driveway, so I knew she was home, but the silence felt suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest as I took off my shoes, my eyes scanning the living room for any sign of her. There was none. For a moment, I wondered if she was just pretending everything was fine, like tonight was just another ordinary evening. I moved cautiously toward the bedroom, my footsteps feeling heavy against the hardwood floor. My mind raced, imagining what her night had been like. Had she enjoyed herself with Ryan? Had she felt that thrill she was so desperate to find? Every step closer to the bedroom made my stomach tighten with dread. The door to our bedroom was slightly ajar, the soft light spilling out into the hallway. I pushed it open slowly, half expecting to find Jennifer in bed, maybe texting that Ryan guy, reliving her little adventure. But what I saw took me by surprise. Jennifer was sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, her head in her hands. She didn't hear me at first, so I stood there, unsure of what to say. She looked broken, almost like she had been crying. The confident, arrogant woman I had argued with earlier this week seemed to be gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. Finally, she looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and tired. For a moment, we just stared at each other, the weight of everything hanging between us. "Where have you been?" she asked quietly, her voice hoarse. There was no sarcasm, no smugness, just sadness. I wasn't sure how to respond. Part of me wanted to throw it back in her face, to tell her I had done exactly what she wanted. I had gone out, I had dated. But seeing her like this, something held me back. I stepped into the room, leaning against the doorframe. "I could ask you the same thing," I said, my tone softer than I intended. "How was your date?" Jennifer flinched, and for the first time, I saw the guilt in her eyes. She looked away, biting her lip, clearly struggling with how to answer. "It didn't go the way I thought it would," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. I felt a surge of anger rise up, but I tamped it down. "What do you mean?" She hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. "We went to dinner. He was nice at first, charming, but halfway through, he started getting, I don't know, weird. He made a few comments that rubbed me the wrong way, but I tried to brush it off. Then, when we left the restaurant, he suggested going back to his place, and I felt like I couldn't say no. I could feel my blood boiling again, but I forced myself to stay calm. "So, did you?" Jennifer shook her head quickly. "No. As soon as we got there, something just felt off. He changed. He wasn't the same guy I thought he was. He was pushy, aggressive. I barely got out of there." She rubbed her hands over her face, as if trying to wipe away the memory. "It was awful, Nick. I made a huge mistake. I didn't know what to say." Part of me felt a sick sense of satisfaction. She had wanted a thrill, and now she was paying for it. But the other part of me, the part that still loved her despite everything, felt something else, pity. She looked up at me again, her eyes pleading. I messed up, Nick. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I needed something different, something exciting, but I was wrong. I'm sorry. Hearing her apologize was like a punch to the gut. For days, she had been so cold, so indifferent, and now, suddenly, here she was, asking for forgiveness. I didn't know if I had it in me. I don't know if sorry is enough, Jennifer, I said quietly, feeling the weight of the past few days pressing down on me. You've been treating me like I don't matter, like I'm just some placeholder in your life. You humiliated me. I know, she whispered, her voice trembling. I know I did. I don't know what's wrong with me. I felt stuck, Nick. Like we were just going through the motions, like something was missing. But tonight made me realize how much I've been taking you for granted. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that this was a turning point, that she had finally seen the error of her ways. But part of me couldn't shake the fear that this was just another manipulation, another way for her to keep control. So, what now? I asked, crossing my arms, trying to keep my voice steady. You went on your date, got your little taste of excitement. Is that enough? Are you done with this? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yes, I'm done. I don't want to lose you, Nick. I can't lose you. The words sounded sincere, but I had heard her talk her way out of things before. I wasn't sure if I could trust her anymore. It's not that easy, I said, shaking my head. You've shattered something between us. I don't know if we can just go back to how things were. She flinched, her face crumpling. I'll do anything, Nick. I'll go to therapy. I'll quit my job if that's what it takes. Just, please don't give up on me. Please don't give up on us. I stared at her, my heart aching. This was what I had wanted for days. For her to realize what she was throwing away, to apologize, to want to fix things. But now that it was happening, it didn't feel as satisfying as I had imagined. The damage had already been done. I don't know if I can forgive you, Jennifer, I said, my voice barely audible. You broke my trust. You made me feel like I didn't matter. That's not something that just goes away. Her eyes filled with tears again, and for a moment, I thought she might start sobbing. But instead, she just nodded, her shoulders slumping in defeat. I understand, she whispered, but I'm going to try. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this right. I didn't say anything. I just turned and walked out of the bedroom, leaving her sitting there alone, the silence between us louder than anything either of us could say. The next few days passed in a blur, each one heavier than the last. Jennifer and I barely spoke, the tension between us a thick wall that neither of us could break through. She kept her promise, though. No more dates, no late nights, no sneaky messages on her phone. She even mentioned looking into couples therapy. But something had changed inside me, something that I wasn't sure could ever be repaired. I spent my days at work, trying to drown myself in projects and avoid thinking about the mess that my life had become. But no matter how hard I tried, the memory of that night, the night she walked in and casually told me she had a date, kept replaying in my head. The betrayal, the humiliation, it was like a wound that wouldn't heal. Jeff checked in a couple of times, asking how things were going. I gave him the same answer every time. I don't know. Because the truth was, I didn't. I didn't know if we could fix this. I didn't know if I could ever trust Jennifer again. And worst of all, I didn't know if I still loved her the way I used to. On Friday evening, a full week after her so-called date, I came home from work to find Jennifer sitting at the kitchen table, waiting for me. She had been doing this a lot lately, sitting there, like she was waiting for me to make a decision. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I ordered dinner, she said quietly as I hung up my coat. Thought maybe we could eat together, talk. I glanced at the table, where 2 plates were set, and a pizza box sat in the middle. It was the kind of thing we used to do all the time, grab a pizza and talk about our day. But now, it felt different. Forced. I'm not really hungry, I muttered, heading toward the fridge for a drink. Nick, her voice stopped me, a plea in the single word. Please, just sit with me. We need to talk about this, I sighed, grabbing a beer from the fridge before sitting down across from her. "What is there to talk about?" I asked, not bothering to hide the bitterness in my voice. "You said you were sorry. You said you wouldn't do it again. What else is there?" She flinched, but I didn't care. I was tired of walking on eggshells, tired of pretending that everything could just go back to normal. It couldn't. "I know you don't trust me right now," she said, her voice trembling. "And I know I've messed everything up, but I meant what I said. I want to fix this. I want to fix us. You're the most important thing in my life, Nick, and I can't lose you." I stared at her, my mind racing. She looked sincere, but how many times had I seen her lie with that same expression? I didn't know what to believe anymore. "You say that now," I said, my voice cold. "But you were ready to walk away from everything for some excitement. How do I know this won't happen again?" Her face crumpled. "It won't. I swear. I was stupid. I was trying to find something that wasn't missing in the first place. I know that now." I took a long sip of my beer, the silence between us growing heavier by the second. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that this was just a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment. But every time I thought about how casually she had told me about her date, how she had laughed when I expressed my hurt, I felt the anger boil up inside me all over again. "You didn't just hurt me, Jennifer," I said, my voice tight. "You humiliated me. You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like our marriage wasn't enough. How am I supposed to just forget that?" She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't expect you to forget. I don't even expect you to forgive me right away. But I'm begging you, Nick, give me a chance to make this right." I looked away, unable to meet her gaze. I had spent the last week trying to figure out what I wanted, trying to decide if I could ever get past what she had done. But no matter how hard I tried, I kept coming back to the same conclusion. "I don't know if I can," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "I don't know if I can get past this." Her breath hitched, and I could see the panic rising in her eyes. "Please, Nick, I'll do whatever it takes. Just, please don't give up on us." I rubbed my hands over my face, feeling the exhaustion settle into my bones. "I'm not sure it's just about us anymore, Jennifer. It's about me. I've spent the last 7 years believing we had something real, something solid. And now, I don't know. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way." She reached across the table, her hand trembling as she took mine. "I'm sorry," she whispered again, her voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." I looked down at her hand, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. I knew what I had to do, even though it hurt like hell. I pulled my hand away gently and stood up from the table, my heart pounding in my chest. "I need space," I said quietly. "I need time to figure this out. And I'm not sure if that means we can stay together." Jennifer's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. She just nodded, her face pale. "I understand," she whispered, "but I'll be here. I'll wait for you." I didn't respond. I grabbed my keys from the counter and walked out of the house, feeling the cool night air hit me like a slap to the face. My heart ached, my mind was a mess, but one thing was clear. I needed to find myself again. Whether that meant a future with Jennifer or without her, I wasn't sure. But for now, I needed to step away from the wreckage and breathe. As I drove away, the weight of the past week finally hit me in full force. I didn't know where I was going or what the future held, but I knew one thing: nothing would ever be the same again.